Well, and while we're waiting to get that set up, I just want to welcome everybody, all our attendees, and a special welcome to our candidates who've joined us tonight. We're super excited to have you. I'll just go through and do some quick introductions of everyone, and then we'll just go through and give everybody a few minutes to talk about their candidacies, why they're running, and how we as supporters can best support your candidacies. So let's see. So Luz Reyes-Martin, thank you so much for being here. Luz is currently on the school board in Goleta, and she is now running for the Goleta City Council in District 1. And I should mention, this is the first election where all of our I believe all of the races are now, instead of being at large, are divided up into trustee areas. And so Luz is running in the Goleta City Council District 1. Thank you for being here, Luz. We have, I'm just going to go down the list here and then circle back around. We have Emily Zacarias, who is with us. She is running for the Goleta Union School Board Trustee Area 3, and we are so excited to have her running for that in that race and to have her with us tonight. We have Dr. Charlotte Gullap-Moore. We're very pleased to have you with us as well. Thank you so much. Dr. Moore is running for the Board of Trustees at Santa Barbara City College in Trustee Area 1, and we're very happy about that. I'm super excited. And let's see, has Rose joined us yet? Okay, so Rose Muñoz is currently on the Board of Trustees at Santa Barbara Unified, and she is running for re-election, and she is in Area 4. And then Gabe, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us, but was generous enough to record a little video for us. He is running also for the Santa Barbara Unified School Board of Trustees. He's running in Area 1, which is currently Kate Ford's seat, but she is vacating that seat. And so there are a few people running for that.
Hey, y'all.
Can you hear that?
My name is Gabe Escobedo, and I'm running for Santa Barbara Unified School District, Trustee Area 1. I wanted to say I'm sorry that I can't be there tonight. I had another commitment. But I wanted to thank you all for your advocacy, the work you do in the community, and for your support in this November's election. And this election is important for many reasons, but one in particular. This is the first election that Santa Barbara Unified is going to district elections. And Trustee Area 1 is the first and only majority-minority district. It contains both the east side and the west side. And like many of the students and families in this district, I understand many of the challenges they are facing. I understand what it's like to attend school and not feel like you belong. And had it not been for a couple of people being there for me at the right time, with the resources and the willingness to help me navigate systems that myself and my family had never navigated, I may not be here today. And I recognize with gratitude that opportunity, but I also recognize that I was lucky. And I don't think that our students should have to rely on luck to have opportunity, to make decisions, to determine their life outcomes. And I want to work towards a school district where every student walks into their class with a sense of belonging and all of the resources and support to be successful. I want every student to graduate with the agency to make the decision for themselves that determine their life outcomes, whether it's higher education, a skilled trade, or the arts. And I've spent my entire career in higher education working with students. I've been a public servant on Planning Commission working towards affordable housing, and the Community Formation Commission, which delivered a recommendation for civilian oversight of the Santa Barbara Police Department. Through that, I've gained experience, relationships, and made meaningful change in our community. And I plan on doing the same thing on Santa Barbara Unified School District. But the fact is, we can't do it without you. We're less than a month away from Election Day. That's 4 weekends.
Hi, Rose. So So we just went around and did basic introductions, and we unfortunately Gabe isn't able to join us tonight, so we're playing a little video that he made for us. And now I'm just going to go around and invite the candidates to speak for a few minutes about really anything you want to share with us about your candidacy, about why you're running, about the importance of your particular race that you're running in, and about what we can do as supporters. You know, we're already on board. We're here for you. What is the best way that we can take action with our friends, with our families to support you? And I just want to say, you know, that I've been to several of the canvassing events, and this last weekend was more of a rally with like a full slate of, you know, many of the candidates that are endorsed by the Democratic Party. And I have to say, it is thrilling, the number and the quality of candidates that we have on the ballot this November. And I have to say, every single one of them are worth enthusiastically supporting. And so that's why we're here, because we want to get everybody on board, and, you know, knocking on doors to spread the word. And so we have no regrets in November. So with that, I'll stop talking and let the experts take over. And I think I'll start with Luz also. So take it away, Luz. Thank you.
Thank you, Cressida. It's so great to see you all. So I'm Luz Reyes-Martin, and I'm a candidate for Goleta City Council in District 1. I'll try not to repeat too much of what you've heard from Gabe and from Cressida, but you know, this really is a historic election in many ways. With so many of these different boards and city councils moving to district elections, it's exciting, and it also adds a lot of uncertainty because we don't know, you know, how this is going to work, or what kind of turnout we will have, or how close some of these races may be. So I, you know, have served on the Goleta School Board for the last 8 years. It's a role that I have loved and treasured, getting to work to support families all across the Goleta Valley, and certainly in the city of Goleta, the Eastern Goleta Valley, and in Isla Vista. And, you know, part of my, you know, journey to take this step to run for city council has really been the result of everything we've been through as a community. Of course, with COVID and the pandemic, but even before that, with the wildfires that we've experienced, with the Montecito debris flow that we all experienced, I found myself over the last really years doing more and more to help support families in Goleta on issues that were outside of the walls of a classroom. On issues related to housing, to jobs, to, you know, how are we going to preserve our environment for the future? How are we taking action on climate change? You know, in our schools, we really instill so many of these values of what it means to be a good person in the world, and how that includes caring for our environment. And it just made me, you know, constantly think about, you know, if we're instilling these values in our kids and in our schools, how are we as a community, as a city, living those values? What are we doing as a broader community to make the future better for that next generation, and for all of us that are here now? So going through this redistricting process, you know, I looked at my district and my neighborhoods, which, for those of you who know the schools community, you know, roughly the Kellogg and La Patera and Goleta Junior High, you know, areas. And these are my neighbors. These are families I know. These are relationships I have, people I know. And I knew that I could contribute. I knew that I could positively contribute. I knew that I could be a champion for these neighborhoods and for this district. So I took that leap of faith to run for this seat. I am challenging an incumbent that has been on the city council, Roger Aceves, for 16 years. And that's tough. You know, we know of others in this community that have, you know, taken that up to challenge an incumbent that maybe doesn't reflect all of our values. And it's tough. So I appreciate so much all of your support, the support of SURJ, the incredible work you do in the community, and just know that I need your help. I need the help to get there. It is really tough to be an incumbent. I think this race is going to be close. Every conversation is going to help make the difference. Every voter you talk to, whether that's at the door canvassing or even making phone calls, or postcards, which we're doing now too, it could really make the difference. I think that, part of what I'm hearing at the door when I'm canvassing is, I think something that we see nationally as well is people want to have trust in these institutions, whether that's our city hall or school boards. They want to be heard, they want to be listened to, they want to be respected, and they want elected officials who are working for them, who are working to make things better for them and for their families, and who are seeking their input, who are working with them, who are rolling their sleeves up to really know the community regularly and not just when it's time for an election. And that's really the kind of leader that I am. What I have done as a school board member is always continuously reaching out to folks and bringing people in to leadership positions and to having decision-making power in these systems. That's the kind of city council member that I want to be as well. So thank you so much. And I really, as I close, want to lift up the other candidates that I'm here with today, because I agree, Cressida, we have some incredible candidates and some incredible people that I have gotten to know. Emily is running for the seat that, I'm currently in, and I'm so thrilled. She's going to be an incredible school board member and advocate. I've had so much great opportunity to work with Dr. Moore with Charlotte, and I'm just thrilled about the leadership that she's going to bring to Santa Barbara City College, a place that I worked at for 5.5 years. And of course, keeping Rose there to be that champion on that school board, and want to get Gabe there too. So I'm just as excited about the whole slate of candidates. And, anytime you can give an hour, on the weekends, and like I said, whether it's knocking on doors or making phone calls or talking to people in your networks, it really can make the difference in these district elections. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Luz. And next we're going to go to Emily, if you're ready, Emily. Okay, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Luz. I have big shoes to fill, and I know you're going to win your election. But you're right. You cannot get too complacent. I mean, what we can do is just keep doing the hard work, and that is, getting out there every day, networking, canvassing, knocking on doors, talking to people. So yeah, this is, first time for me to throw my hat in the ring in a political sense. I'm kind of, banking on my experience as a teacher and as a mom, and knowing the community that I live in the tree farm community. There's so many young families here. We moved in 2018. That was a workforce housing, condo that my husband and I were able to buy. And so this community since then has been just so wonderful in supporting me. And, my race is really about just protecting what Luz and her fellow board members have established, as just having a really solid leadership role and setting a tone for being just really an amiable, group of governing board members that, oversee the district. My daughter is currently a second grader at Kellogg, and I have a 3-year-old who you heard earlier in the background. She'll start TK next year. And that's one of the exciting things about statewide, is that TK is going to be universal preschool, is going to be one of those things that is, mandated by 2025. So my daughter has the opportunity to attend school, public school, when she's 4. So that's something that's really exciting. And I just so appreciate all the work you guys do, and your message, and just your support. It really makes a difference when you have people that are out there walking for you, and representing you and your values, and telling voters what's at stake. Because these school board elections, as you know, across the country, have become these sort of hotbed, kind of a lightning rod, these races about what are we teaching our kids, what public education is all about. What does that mean? Because there's, some families have taken their kids out of public schools. The whole white flight thing, it's still real. During the pandemic, a lot of parents just left, they formed their own pods and, kind of just leaving the public school high and dry. And I really want to emphasize the importance of solidifying the institution that is our public, education, our schools, that is just the cornerstone of democracy. So that is just such an important thing for me. As far as the campaigning, I mean, I think the best thing, what I'm trying to do with my district, it's such, it's just carved out so precisely. And I don't know what went into the decision making. I think, Luz and the other board members made that call. Or it's just odd because people used to think at large meant, the top three, recipients of the votes would get those seats. But, part of my district is UCSB on campus. So the campus, the freshmen that are living on campus, that were registered, 1,500 of them a few weeks ago by the Democratic Party. They went out and just really helped get them registered because they just moved in mid-September. And, they can't vote until they, actually get their new residence in. So I really want to focus. That's another area for me. I'm going to set up a table next week with a couple, friends to help me just engage campus, students on campus that are freshmen and talk to them, because that's enough to win the election right there. I think is just that margin. I don't know how much they have at stake with, they don't have kids in the district, but I think it's an engaged youth that really want to make a difference. The campus Dems have been amazing getting the word out and canvassing. So that's one area. And, getting out to Old Town Goleta. I know, Rose, you said you'd come and help me with my husband also speaks Spanish and so do you. And I think that is a great way to just knock on doors and start talking and engaging people over there in that community. But I've really just been focusing my efforts on, reaching out to a lot of families in my neighborhood and in the Kellogg family community and learning as I go. And the support of the Democratic Party has just been amazing. I've learned a lot. And Laura Capps has become a friend of mine. She's helping me with my campaign. And she's just invaluable. She's like, their family is just so well experienced in politics in the community. And so she's been really plugging me in and I'm learning so much. So if you guys, as it's all about knocking on doors. I'm holding an event this Sunday. I can forward you, Cressida, I can email you. I have a little flyer. It's at my condo's clubhouse. And it sounds so cute, like meet me at the clubhouse Sunday at 10. I'm just doing it, on my own. I'm going to have some bundles of turf that, are areas that people can knock on doors. And a lot of my neighbors are showing up, friends of parents and families from the Kellogg community, and just people to just knock on doors for an hour or two, just really just grassroots. So if you are free on Sunday, I know I don't want to pull away from the 1:00 Democratic Party, the headquarters meet down there, rally and voting, but that's another thing I'm doing. And please, any of you reach out if you have an hour to go knock on some doors for all these great candidates. I know the districts don't always overlap and it's been hard kind of navigating that, but just knowing that you guys support us, it gives us more strength, and it's the wind in our sails. I'll say that, and I'll end there, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, send us the whatever, or if you have something you can drop in the chat here. But if you have something that we can email out, that's great.
Yes.
Because I know sometimes for the canvassing, it starts downtown Santa Barbara, and so for some folks who are in the Goleta area, knowing something that's closer, they don't have to go all the way downtown, can be helpful. So wonderful. Thank you, Emily. And next, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dr. Moore. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Moore.
Well, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak. share a little bit about myself, and just get to know SURJ more. I will tell you this before I start. I was checking out your website, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm digging the support BIPOC-led organizations. I love the educate yourself on your racial history. I'm gonna do your 16-hour deep dive anti-racism course, and your links with best practices. I like the resources. So kudos to those who created the website. I'm going to be encouraging people to go through SURJ website and tap into those needed resources, especially given the current climate down here in LA, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So if you haven't heard about me or don't know me, my name is Charlotte Gullap-Moore. I am a nurse. If you know more about the nursing profession, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a healthcare provider. I provide primary care, chronic pain management, and medical addiction therapy when I am managing patients, which I am not doing right now because I'm campaigning. I'm also an educator. I teach nursing at the California State University, both on the Channel Islands campus as well as the Goleta Extended Campus, which is located behind the Goleta Cottage Hospital. And so I focus mostly on med surg and the first year nurse practitioner students, registered nursing students, because I like to give them a really good foundation on how to assess our patients. And I will tell you that from my collective years of being in the nursing profession, over 20 years, I have seen my fair share of health disparities, okay? And data will tell you 20% of it is avoidable, okay? We're talking about billions of dollars of unnecessary healthcare expenditures could be avoided, okay? And a lot of that is related to structural racism. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. But I just wanted to put that out there. Another thing is, a lot of times my patients, is because of the inequitable access to higher education, whether that be a certificate program, an associate's degree, a baccalaureate degree, or just pivoting where you want to change professions and you want to brush up your skills on STEM or ceramics or art, whatever the case may be. Getting into higher education is a challenge because if you're not given a good head start in your primary education, right? Because some schools, their quality of delivery of education, it's unbalanced depending on your zip code, okay? And so I see the outcome. And for years, it just made me extremely upset. And I will always ask myself why. And then I would ask myself, well, why can't we do more? And the response would be, well, because our policies doesn't allow us to do that. Or regulatory statutes doesn't allow us to do that. And I said, okay. So then that landed me into advocating for more sustainable and equitable ways to get direct access to care. And that kind of made me feel good because I felt like, okay, I'm taking my frontline experience and I'm taking it to our elected officials who are making some of these decisions, and I'm giving them more information on how to make more inclusive, sustainable decisions that impacts the delivery of healthcare, which ultimately helps our community, right? And I was like, okay, that made me happy, but I still was finding myself saying, why? Why are we still dealing with this? So then when I started teaching, I noticed, and I hate to admit this, but I noticed the inequitable way of students getting into school. And I noticed the inequitable way of educators trying to deliver the pedagogy, right? And so that's a problem. So then for years, I knew I wanted to do more. I knew I was going to somehow enter the political arena. I don't consider myself a politician. I just want to bring that equitable lens and operationalize it so that our youth here can get into SBCC and not have to face those issues as much. I don't know if I'm going to be able, because it takes more than one person. It takes a collective, right? But we need to make sure that our higher education institutions are governed by a body of people who is not politicizing access to higher education, but instead they want to create sustainable pathways for any student or any adult or any, I like to call them my seasoned citizens, to enter higher education. and then get the resources to successfully thrive and not just survive. Not only that, but to have competent staff and faculty and a president/superintendent who can also continue to meet the students' needs and align it with the mission of the school. And it can't just be who looks pretty on paper, but we need to check receipts. Okay, and so our current interim president, Dr. Kendrick Murillo, is doing a great job, but she's the interim. And the SBCC will be bringing in a new president. So should I get elected, I will be a part of that process, and I will bring in and strengthen that equitable and operationalized lens. All right. So you heard who I am. You heard why I got here. You heard some of what I want to do for the students. Now my needs. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Barb and Sarah, who was championing those Summerlin Hills with me, because we knocked it out. We were getting in our miles, and we were serving with a smile and laughing at ourselves and how winded we were going up those steep, slopey streets. And just the steps alone was even steeper to get to the front door, if we could find the front door. So kudos to Barb and Sarah. Thank you so much. They just really energized me to keep on moving and trucking along. So thank you, SURJ, for lending these two amazing women to help me canvas. And so should any of you feel left out and having fun with me and canvassing, please feel free to reach out to vote yes for more, number 420more@gmail.com. You too are invited. I canvas quite often. Just let me know when your schedule is conducive so we could do it together. So yes, I need people to help me canvas, and I need donations. Campaigns are not cheap. Now, the weird thing is, and I do say weird, is that there's a cap for my donations. No one can give more than $200. No agency, no individual. Wonder why. Doesn't sound very equitable, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But what I'm saying is that makes it hard for me to pay for things like lawn signs, mailers. I have 3 cities, MTA1, Montecito, Summerlin, and Carpinteria. And as you know, like as you just heard, some doors are hard to get to in Summerlin. Can you imagine canvassing in Montecito? Exactly. But I have to pay for those mailers, and they cost a lot. So if you haven't made a donation, please do so. If you did max out your $200 donation, please ask at least one other person. No amount is too small. I need donations so I can get those mailers paid for and sent out, because people, they are receiving their ballots. And as you know, this is a nonpartisan race. So when they look down that ballot, they're not going to see Democrat. They're not going to see that my opponent is the wife of a former Trump appointee. They're not going to see that. The ballot's not going to tell them that. But when they get my mailer and they do some more, research, they'll understand that it's not about me. It's about our higher education and getting access to it. I started at a community college, and not every student can go straight to a 4-year for whatever reason. But we want to make sure that we have a robust and a viable community college here in our backyard. I hear that we keep doing stuff on UCSB campus all the time. I hope that we can start to collaborate and start doing things on SBCC campus. That's another thing I would like for us to do, SURJ, once I get elected. Or why even start, once I get elected, we could start doing something now. We could talk about that offline. So I think I hit all my bases. You know who I am. You know why I'm running. You know what I need. Thank you so much for all of your support. And let's just keep on keeping on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm ready to sign up. Okay, and then we're going to hand it over to Rose so we can hear about her position in her race, and then we'll do take some questions from any of the folks in the audience. We also have some questions as well, but we thought we'd open it up to other folks on the Zoom as well. But first, we'll hear from Rose now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I have, let me see, I'm from Santa Barbara, born and raised on the east side. I had shared it last weekend about my family and background and whatnot. But just, basically have experienced a lot, have seen a lot of the differences, certainly in Santa Barbara, that there's like these guys and then us, and the diversity has been an issue for years and years and years. When I was growing up, we had more of a diverse community. Back then we had, more Blacks. I had a lot of friends that were Black that were in the neighborhood. We had Latinos, we had Italians around the corner and so forth. And because of the costs and because of Dr. Moore was saying, because of the differences in equity and whatnot, a lot of people have left. A lot of the students that I grew up with, friends that I used to kick it with are, no longer in the community. They're commuting here or gone, to other places where housing is cheaper. I was able to get to UCSB. It's sad, truly sad how few of us can get from our community here to UCSB, which really it's a bus ride away, right? But I was fortunate to have good college counselors who encouraged me on that path, and with very little financially, I was able to get there and opened up that world to me. There, I studied, got my bachelor's in sociology, and took a lot of, at that time, it was kind of like the pre-ethnic studies, it was Black studies, Chicano studies, LGBT. I took like the first women in sociology class, which was so powerful. And then I did go on to get my master's in social work to my dream school. I was able to get to USC because I found out about a minority fellowship. I went to the school of my dreams, which I thought I'd never be able to get to. But when I did, I studied, community organizing, policy, and administration, because I had already been out there. I'd been working in the hospitals, I'd worked some in the schools, and of course I'd been in school. And the problems I always faced were from up above, right? That I saw a lot of my community facing with. And so I have been very active in the community. Gosh, I volunteered for at least 10 years with the Dems. I helped with Pueblo and then Cause, a lot of the issues, housing, tenants' rights, immigration, healthcare for all is a big passion of mine, equity in healthcare. And then before that, I also fought against the gang injunction, because it was another issue that was just not right, not right, that they were trying to impose on our community and such. And so my passion is, activism. I used to go to school board meetings and demand change. We had a unity march, Cesar Trujillo and I organized a unity march in the community and stuff. And so we appeared at the school board meeting with our big signs going in and stuff. And so that led to working in the schools and then deciding, well, how about if I try a board position? How about that? I don't know, me, I don't know, and whatnot. And of course, 4 years ago, when I ran for the school board, all of a sudden there was this huge interest. There was, I think, 6 or 7 candidates when I ran. Before, we couldn't even find candidates to run, right, Luz? We would be asking and we couldn't even find anyone. So there was a huge amount of competition. I think we had, 6 to 8 forums or something that we participated in, even on KEYT, for God's sakes, and stuff. And so, so there is this interest. There is a lot of power, a lot of fighting with schools. All of a sudden, like, the schools have become the arena where they don't want us to have progressive people in place. And that's why I feel so strongly that this is needed. We have been working on, ethnic studies. I was involved with previously, from being on the board, student-led movement, ethnic studies, huge pushback on that. The teen talk, the sex education, I was looking up articles 2 years ago. We had, working on that, we had passed it, and they're still fighting it tooth and nail. Books, banning books, for God's sakes. One of the books that the candidate for the East Side and the West Side is opposed to, and it's like Dante, Aristotle, or such, right? I can't remember the title, and I should remember it. I read it. It was wonderful. It was a young man discovering himself, right? Why would we ban that? It just makes no sense. And so there's so much that we've done in the schools. We were working on equity. We're working on combating anti-Blackness and racist incidents. We are tracking them and talking about them at every board meeting. And then of course with the LA situation, but we need to have our students be able to be in a supportive environment, and that's inclusive. And the parents, also of course need that support. So I really feel strongly, along with the rest of the candidates on our progressive agenda, is that, both at Goleta School District, Santa Barbara City College, with UCSB, and with the Santa Barbara schools, that we have that partnership, that we can collaborate. Many of our students from the Santa Barbara School District are also taking classes at City College, and that's that bridge, right? Like they can, there's that opportunity to be able to get somewhere. Like Dr. Moore was saying, we need to be, collaborating with each other, and there's no reason why we should be separate. So I really, the ask is, help with us walking. If folks are out here in Goleta, I'm out in Nolita too. My district is Nolita, Isla Vista, and Elwood. So it's also kind of, like that. If someone wants to meet out here and have us bring a packet, we could meet out here. We don't, everyone doesn't have to run downtown all the time. I know it gets old. It's like, okay, 3 more weekends, I think. And stuff. And of course, helping raise funds is really helpful. $20, $30 is real helpful. It's amazing how expensive things are. I'm reusing my signs. I wanted new signs, but they're like $800, $900 for signs, for God's sakes, and stuff. So walking and making calls, especially the last 2 weeks, any time that you could spare to make calls is like gold. It's really helpful. So that's, a little bit about me and what we could really use. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rose. Yeah, and that's great that to remind folks that there is the opportunity to, if walking and door knocking really is not something you're going to do, there's other opportunities, phone banking and text banking as well. So thanks for the reminder on that. I'm really enjoying this because we have the luxury to really hear from you all, and I'm learning so much more about you all than I knew. I'm really enjoying hearing, just being able to hear a little bit more of your stories. Thank you so much. So, of course, we have questions prepared, but we thought we'd open it up to some of the other attendees if they have any burning questions for our candidates. Folks can either put them in the chat or raise your hand. And if not, like I said, we have some questions ready to go, but I'll just give folks an opportunity if there's anything. And it could be questions for specific candidates or just general questions. All right. Well, don't be shy, y'all. Well, I'll go ahead and jump in if I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Lauren, are you seeing anything? Well, and so some of you, touched on this already, but of course, as SURJ showing up for racial justice, we're focused on bringing in white folks into the multiracial work of dismantling racism and fighting racial injustices. And so we've heard some of you touch on some of the issues, but I'm wondering if any of you would like to speak about what you look forward to doing in your new position to specifically address racial injustices in your offices. And that could be something, something that's existing already, a program or policy that you'd like to support and continue and build on, or something that you see is completely lacking and would like to, to pioneer. And I'm happy to just open up to anybody who's ready to go on that. Luz is ready to go.
This is a great question. And I think something that's really interesting is I believe, so the city of Goleta is in 4 districts. So we have 4 council members plus their directly elected mayor that's at large. And I believe I have the whitest district. So I have the district with the largest population that's white, high education, high income, part of the city. And so, here I am as the Latina wanting to represent this district. And I think what's been really interesting in a lot of the conversations that I've had with folks is I come from a place where, so I have a degree from college in Chicano and Chicana studies. So I had the opportunity to, be an ethnic studies student in college and had a focus on, really understanding history and understanding the way that systems and policies are intentionally put in place to consolidate power and to keep power away from, Black and Latino folks and Asian American folks, in particular in California. And so many of the issues that are important to my neighbors, I try to bring that justice lens to it. So when we're talking about the environment, I'm really talking to my neighbors about environmental justice and about, not just, preserving our open spaces, but making sure that we are looking equitably across our city on opportunities for recreation, opportunities for, investment in other parts of the city to make sure that we're all equitably enjoying our environment and planning for future impacts of climate change. When we're talking about housing, it's that balance of, of course, everyone is concerned about the drought and water and the impacts of housing, but really talking to people about, the justice issues behind housing. The fact that too many people in Goleta, too many of our families in Goleta are struggling with housing, need, different options for housing at different income levels, and that it's our responsibility as neighbors and as a city to care for one another, and the way that caring for one another and caring for our city can be implemented through policies and through things that are happening. So I think no matter what position you have, whether it's elected or not, I do feel this deep sense of responsibility to bring in, this racial justice lens to so many different issues, and having those conversations and being willing to engage in some difficult conversations at times with folks who may not have thought of things that way before. But really, working at it and working to have those conversations. There's a couple of neighbors that I've probably had this conversation multiple times with, and, they learn something, and I think that they're getting there on some of these issues, but it does require, that commitment to continuing this. So, if I'm elected, I will keep doing that work. And I want to also work in partnership with the rest of the council to apply that, the equity lens and a racial justice lens across the city. We have parts of our city that have historically had underinvestment or lack of investment. And we need to address that, and we need to own up to that, and acknowledge that, and really work to, make a positive change in some of these communities. It's a great question, and one that I feel really strongly about.
I can go next since no one's speaking.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay, I was muted. Thank you, Charlotte.
Did you want me to continue? Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I've had several conversations already with Dr. Kendrick Morello, the interim president at SBCC, and she has receipts in implementing programs and continuing education and platforms addressing anti-Blackness and structural institutionalized racism. In fact, she just implemented, with the assistance of the current Board of Trustees, some continuing education workshop/webinars for faculty and staff. An outside consultant firm has come in and providing these workshops for faculty/staff members on how to identify your implicit bias, how to not perpetuate discrimination, and how to integrate that when you are executing your whatever your pedagogy is. And so I zoomed in on that meeting and made a public comment that I'm in favor of that, and that this should not be a one and done. Okay. Just like in healthcare, the human body is very dynamic. So we're always coming up with the latest and greatest medication because our bodies become used to older generations of interventions. And so we need to be just as dynamic. Well, education needs to be just as dynamic so we continue to meet the current climate and meet the needs of our community, right? So having continuing education, it can't be, oh, I did this 16-hour deep dive. That's great. That's a good start. But there needs to be an expectation and a culture that this is something you need to continue to do on maybe once a year or biannually or twice a year, where you are making sure that you are keeping yourself abreast with the current terminology, the current interventions to incorporate into your classrooms so that you're not perpetuating negative stereotypes, so that you are making your environment optically more inclusive. So for instance, are your textbooks or your literature, do they all have pictures of one race? That's a problem, right? So we need to start holding these publishing houses accountable. If we're going to buy these books and demand for and recommend to our students to buy these textbooks, which are not cheap, they need to not give that subliminal notion that a certain group of people look like this versus this group of people always look like that. So it's putting in various continuing education models for the staff, the faculty, and the materials that we use. So I support Dr. Murillo. And when we when we bring in that next president, we want to bring in a president who's going to continue what she started and continue to be more innovative and making sure we create that type of new culture so that we don't have some of those racial issues that the community college had recently. Okay, so that's my agenda as far as fighting the racial injustices and the platform that I will be writing on policy programs. Again, we need to make sure that there's a budget item line to pay for this. And we also need to look at the budget and be realistic. If stuff is not sustainable or not practical, we can't keep paying for it just because it's been there since the earth crusted over. It doesn't make any sense. So we need to make sure that we're being fiscally fit with our fiduciary responsibility so that the college continue to be innovative and be the number one and the gem that we consider SBCC to be.
Terrific. Thank you. Anyone else? I recognize that we've gone over. We had allotted to 7:45. So I just wanted to give everybody permission that if you have a schedule based on the time frame that we shared, we won't you're welcome to move on if you need to. Of course, we certainly hope everybody can hang out with us for a little bit longer, but I just want to recognize that we've gone over time, and I just want to be respectful for anybody who needs to leave. Thank you.
Thanks, Cressida. I'll just, before I head off, my kids are melting down before bed. So, I'll have to go, but I think this is such an important conversation. And, I'm so mindful of this issue. The achievement gap is one that comes to mind where, our students of color are performing at just such a lower rate than, as far as test scores than their peers who are white. And I'm so mindful of this. And I've been asked a lot along the way, the last several weeks of, what are you going to do about it? And it's like, I don't have the answer. I don't think any one person can solve this. It's sort of one of those issues that we really, we just have to bring up the issue of systemic racism. And I've been really careful how I use that word, because I think that people kind of see it as a dirty word, and the right wing people think it's like one of those like, oh, like CRT, it has this negative connotation, but people don't really understand what that means, and having just students that don't have the same opportunities, and how that can set them back on so many levels. And so that's one thing I'm going to be mindful of. I know Ethan Bertrand, who's he ran unopposed, so he'll be appointed to District 5 on the Goleta School Board. And he's so mindful of this issue as well. And so that's one of the areas that I'll be focused on. My husband is the son of immigrants, and he reminds me all the time. He follows you guys and follows SURJ and all the things you do. And he keeps me in check and keeps me mindful of how I talk about things and the perspective I take. And as we raise our daughters in a neighborhood that's largely white, and how do we bring opportunities for multiculturalism and an appreciation of all cultures. And it's just something that I'm always finding ways to figure out how to do better. And if I am elected, I think that's going to be an issue that is front and center, because it seems like an issue that, people are afraid to talk about it, or, I hear a lot of parents saying, should I pull my kid out and send him to private school? This is what white families are telling me, because they're afraid that like watering down the curriculum to accommodate our students of color. I mean, I've heard these conversations. It's painful to hear, especially people that I like that say those things. And, I see it happening, and it just, I don't want it to get to that. And it's these issues I talk about with my husband a lot in the home, and talking about them in public, especially if I'm on, the dais, and if I have that opportunity. They're really tough issues. And I just want to be so conscious and mindful, and having, being, involved with your organization to kind of hold my feet to the fire to represent all of our communities, families.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Emily. And I say, welcome to SURJ. This is the place. This is the place to learn. It's a lifelong journey, learning about this, deconstructing it within ourselves, and, and making mistakes and coming back again. And it's really important to do it in community. We have a lot of resources. All the folks you're talking to, send them our way. And it's a lifelong journey, and we're glad you're here with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for hanging out with us a little extra. Sorry about that. Okay. Rose, did you want to?
Yes, certainly.
Chime in?
Yes. In terms of racial justice, in the schools, we have been addressing that. One of the ways that we have as a school board addressed it was universal access, having, students not having the honors classes separate so that there's a combined class. Students can bring each other up And we find that is a real, a very tangible way to bring about equity, so that students will not feel like, oh, I can't be in this class and stuff. Instead, encouraging them, reaching out to the students who may not see themselves, that they should be in certain classes at, junior high and high school. So bringing them up, supporting them. The other way that we're also looking at it is we had looked at suspensions. We had a lot of the majority of the students that were being suspended in the past were Latino and Black students and special ed students. So we've looked at a different, just revamping that in terms of positive ways of, pursuing things, like with students that are name calling or students that are fighting and so forth, just doing it from a positive standpoint and now offering more mental health support. Because when students are in crisis, when they need support, that's when they act out, just like in society. So just being more equitable as a school system and just looking at things a different way, and offering more opportunities to all of our students, to making sure that they're all doing well, and such.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rose, for the work you're doing there. And we're, definitely look forward to having you there to continue along with Gabe.
Thank you.
Could I mention something?
Please, yeah.
So, which I should have mentioned before. So what we're hearing is what is considered, and there's tons of data about it, social determinants of health, right? And there's 5 or 6 domains, depending on if you're looking at the KFF Foundation page or the NIH page. There's like 5 to 6, but if you look up social determinants of health, you're going to see what we're talking about here. And what we need to stop saying is brown and Black students are more prone to not succeeding because they're more prone to not succeeding, right? But we don't say the why. And so we keep perpetuating that, okay? And then we don't know who's listening to us when we say that. So then they keep saying it. So then you get into this mindset that, oh, if you're Black or brown, you have a harder time being successful. But you don't understand the why. And the why is it's social determinants of health. Where do you live? Do you live somewhere where there are no access to healthy food, affordable healthy food, to parks? Do you have educators who say to you, I don't think AP classes, you're going to do well. Why don't you just stay in this class? Maybe we need to look at who the counselors are, who the teachers are, okay? Job security. If you have 2 parents who are working 2 jobs, then how can they come home to make sure you did your homework, right? As opposed to if you come from a family where the parents only work 1 job, or one parent is part-time, the other one works full-time, at least you're there to be a part of your child doing their homework or picking them up from school, not the older brother or cousin picking them up, talking to the teacher, having those extra moments to communicate, to really get a deep dive and mitigate any barriers your child may be facing. Another thing is what we don't want to talk about is you're not born a bigot. They're being raised. And so it's not my job to correct your ideology. It's my job to say that that ideology is not going to work here. So when you're here at this public institution, this is an inclusive environment. This is everyone's included. And so they won't want to display that ideology. And unfortunately, when you have students who are being bullied, it's because they are projecting some toxic behavioral patterns that they might be bringing to the institution from their surrounding. We don't want to talk about that, but that's the case. So I want us to try to not keep saying our Black and brown students can't have, don't have, unable to do because it perpetuates that negative stereotype. And it really has nothing to do with the color of their skin. I mean, technically it does, right? Because it's racist and it's structural, it's institutionalized, but it's the lack of equitable access to certain resources on why our community members are not coming from level playing fields. So we got to start attacking the social determinants of health, because we keep talking about policies. We got to change these policies. It's the policies is saying, okay, we're going to put money here for a park, but not there. We're going to create a foundation promise and give full-time students 2 years free access to go to school, but not the part-time students. Although most of our students are part-time, and who are the part-time students, right? So we got to work on those policies, not so much work on and say based on their skin. I'm not saying that, if, you know, I say it sometimes. I'm not picking on anyone here. I'm just saying it starts with us on how to change the language so that that doesn't continue to move forward. That's like me telling my patient, you're prone to being diabetic because you're Black. That's not scientifically based. Because are you saying every Black person in the galaxy is prone? No. Just like every brown person is not susceptible to not being successful in school. There's a lot of successful brown and Black people, right? So we just need to be careful on how we communicate that. And I just wanted to share that it's called social determinants of health. And I'm more than willing to further that conversation with any of us so that we can, you know, help each other out as we're moving forward, because there's a lot of like minds here. Rose Muñoz, I every time I hear you speak, I'm like your cheerleader over here. I'm like, yes. So thank you, Rose. Thank you for your years of advocacy and all that you're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you so much. That was needed. I think we should probably wrap this up. So I just, again, really want to thank you all. And I think that was a really important note to end on. Yeah, Kim.
I just, before you go, for those of you still left who are not candidates, I put in the chat a document for it's kind of an all hands on deck moment. We have 4 weekends left, and we want to help partner you up with other people to canvass in these last kind of weekends that are coming up. So if you can put your name and phone number, then we can text and just arrange so you don't have to do this alone, but we can do it together and support the candidates who have come and spoken to us tonight. So please take a moment just to click on that Google Doc. And we can, you know, start to connect everyone together as we jump on board as much as we can in these, you know, last couple weeks. And we're so grateful for all the candidates. I know your time is so precious, and we're so grateful. We have the recording that we want to share out to we'll share it out to our large 1,000 person newsletter as well. We'll share out this forum that's being recorded tonight, and we're just so grateful to each of you tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor to be here, and I'd be glad to walk with anyone anytime.